This is SMA Live, and we would be remiss if we didn't mention the passing of Grandmaster Ree last week. Grandmaster Ree was the father of Taekwondo. He first came to the Washington, D.C. area in the 1960s and has taught thousands of students. Grandmaster Ree was 86, and his legacy will live on through the no doubt thousands and possibly even hundreds of thousands of students who he touched through his lives with the simple principle of knowledge in the mind, honesty in the heart, and strength in the body. Grandmaster Ree was 86 years old. Welcome, everyone. This is SMA Live in the morning. Of course, it's 11:30 a.m. to me, and it's 10:30 a.m. to my spectacular guest. Let me go ahead and bring him in right now. We have with us, one second, one little click there. There we go. We have with us Gabe, Reynaga. Gabe, thank you for taking the time from, let me make sure you get the pronunciation right, is Ohama? I know I'm probably botching it.
Ohana.
Ohana Jiu-Jitsu Academy. And for those of you that are not my age and Gabe's age, this was a spectacular sports karate professional. You were on one of the, were you one of the original members of John Paul Mitchell?
I came in, I was kind of like second generation.
Second generation John Paul Mitchell members, a dynamic kata professional, and now you're taking up jiu-jitsu. So for those of us that were, basically kids or not even born during that time, go ahead and introduce yourself and give us this slight abbreviated journey from sports karate to where you are now.
How you doing, Mel? Thank you so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it. So I had the opportunity to compete as an adult. I started at 17. Battle of Atlanta, I think, was one of the first adult competitions that I moved up in a little bit before I was actually, 18 years old. A lot of us did back then. Started to really create something a little different than what was out there currently at that time for Japanese forms and Okinawan forms. Just kind of put my own little flavor in it. And for a few years during the 90s, I was a pretty successful competitor, not only in the forms and division, but also in the fighting division as well. So I enjoyed competing in both. I always like to represent the forms guys in the fighting division. Try to hold my own, and then also just started to really have a great what's the right word? Just overall in sport martial arts. I didn't end up in '93 tearing one of my ACLs, and then the year after, when I was getting that knee repaired, my left knee, I tore it as well. So that kind of took me out of the sport for a few years. I had my left knee reconstructed in 2000, and I wish I had some wood to knock on. No injury since then with
Absolutely.
my knees. And I got involved with Ohana Academy in 2009. Funny enough, I'm in the room. This is an extension of Ohana. It's actually where we first started. I was one of his first students. My professor's name is Jason Yerington. He opened it in a small little what would you call this? Personal training studio that his parents have, and we had like 1,000 square feet of mat space. Just a small group of us, and with Jason as our leader, we were able to grow. We're in like a 5,000 square foot facility now, full cage. I really started to get involved with the MMA because of the comfort level of striking. Jiu-jitsu was always there, but I considered it part of MMA. So I used the striking, my comfort zone, the jiu-jitsu and wrestling to start to help out some of the fighters that were part of Ohana at the time. And then probably 2012, I made the decision to get myself in there myself. I was, I think, 40 at the time. And I fought once in 2012, once in 2013. I lost both of them, unfortunately. But then I had my win in the cage in 2014. I was 42 years old and decided that I took enough hits.
It's a hard knock sport.
Yeah, you don't recover quite the same at 42 years old. So I decided to, call it quits with MMA and really start focusing on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. At that time, I was a blue belt, and the one thing that my professor always encourages is for us to compete, and it's not really. I think one of the biggest things that he says is that when we go out and we compete at jiu-jitsu competitions, it adds 3 months of training. One competition equal to 3 months of training, because you learn a lot about yourself as a practitioner, some of the deficiencies that you have, some of the areas that I had just come back from a tournament in Dallas 2 weeks ago. I had a really good turnout. I ended up winning three golds, two in my division, and then the open class gold also. But even there, in the competition, and having lost no matches, got a few submissions, but there were areas and gaps in my game that I was excited to come back to and work on at the academy. So
there's nothing like competition that will help you. It does expose your strength and also does expose your weaknesses. And a lot of times people don't want to hear the word weakness. However, your opponent actually shows you where you need to be improving at, whether it's your opponent in a tournament or if it's your opponent that you're just having doing a sparring session. In a way, that's why you always got to have good training partners that, they push you and they show you the areas that you're weak in.
Definitely.
Well, let me see here. I'm going to feed up some images really quick while we go ahead and speak. Give us the what was the JPM roster when you joined, since you were second generation from your time there?
So a lot of the guys that were the original team members were still fighting for the team. Team captain Steve Babcock. There was Chris Rapole, Johnny Payton. John JP was always one of my favorite fighters during that time. Mike Conroy. Like I said, a lot of the original team members. I was right after they brought on Richie Bearfield.
Okay, yeah, I remember
California.
Okay, I definitely remember that time, and of course, if you follow sports karate history and know anything about it, Mike Conroy went on to not only captain, become one of the great coaches of my coach from Team CJB and also Team Elite Days. And it's always amazing to me who Mike knows, and I look up to him and I give him a call. I talk to Mike as often as I can. We were in Philadelphia not too long ago, and I was there to see Wonder Boy. I got a chance to meet Wonder Boy, who was given his great amount of time here interviewing. And I get in the room and I meet Wonder Boy, and I was like, hey, he's like, I remember you. We did the interview. It was great. And then Mike Conroy comes in and is like, hey, Steven, how you doing? He said, hey, coach. I'm like, who do you not know? He's just everywhere, man. He's plugged in. He's greatly respected. You and I were on the team at the same time. It was another great time during life. And you've been on, to me, the John Paul Mitchell Karate team is a huge staple in the history of sports karate. Just the names alone, that you've got Pedro, you've got let's go down the forms. You've got John Sue, you've got John Valera, Carmichael Simon. I mean, the list goes on and on for kata and also for Fighting Light, and of course, we'd be remiss not to mention KA, of course. I mean, when you're in a room with so many great competitors, how do you make sure you stand out so that, guys like Pedro are like, man, did you see Gabe's? How do you see Gabe fight? You're in a room of giants. How do you make sure you stand out as well?
I just was always a competitor. So
I think that says it all.
I would vie for that edginess. I remember, talking about Mike Conroy, I have to be really thankful for Mike, because during my time away from the sport, he would still stay connected to me. Hey, man, you ready to get back out there? And you got to do that form again for me, man. You got to get out there. And I'd be like, man, well, Mike, I had this going on. I got this going on. Yeah, okay. And he just stayed patient with me up until 2004. I had the opportunity to get back out there on the circuit. And a lot of that was responsibility of Sifu, as kind of like the guy that was like, kind of that just staying consistent with me and being like, man, you got to get back out there. And it was a lot of fun. When I went back out there in 2004, there were so many new faces, because you had mentioned a lot of the people that were competing before I got there on JPM. And during the time that I was on there, they started bringing in the younger guys like John Valera and Carmichael Simon and these amazing competitors. I just was always fortunate to have a look that a lot of people weren't used to. And I didn't need music when I went out there. I put on my own music on the forums.
Mm-hmm. It's here's a great picture of you and uh, Larry Conahan. Of course, Larry is always wearing black. If you guys don't know, I don't think Larry has any other color in his closet. He's always wearing black. I remember the ridiculously low stances that you had. I mean, it was just, I used to, when I was coming up in the game and watching you guys, and I'm just like, man, this dude, I don't know how he does it. Just the constant training. And you are, if you think you mentioned right, an Okinawa stylist from the beginning?
Yes, yeah. I started off at a style called Ishinru.
Mm-hmm.
And then I always there was a few different styles in the Okinawan. The form that I competed with was a Shorinu form. And I, again, just kind of started to add my own flavor, started to drop those stances a little bit. And, just was something that not many people were used to. The picture that you put up of Carnahan and myself, that was the year, it was 1992. The year before that, I had competed against Hosang Pak.
Oh, yeah.
And that's right when Hosang had just came out with the Ninja Turtles.
Mm-hmm.
And they were announcing him as that. This is, from the Ninja Turtles, the stuntman, Hosang Pak. He went up there and he busted all tens. And I was right after him. I remember that. And I was like, I remember a friend of mine, he said, it was before we were kind of close. And he goes, man, I was probably thinking the same thing that everybody else was thinking. Like, what's this guy doing? Why is he going to go up there even after this guy who went up and just did a perfect form?
Right.
What's this guy going to bring to the table? And I had all tens and 199. And the year after that, the picture that you put up was the year that I got that diamond ring and was able to actually compete against Hosang again and beat him. So that was kind of cool.
That is, that is quite an act to follow. You go up and this guy, it's not even, you could kind of understand if he was the last competitor and he gets all tens, but he goes up before you and all of a sudden it's 10, 10, 10. And it's like, okay, now I got to go back up there. But I like that spirit of competition you had. You didn't let that intimidate you, and you go up there and fire right back. And then, like you said, you eventually defeated him, get yourself a diamond ring, and write and etch your mark in sports karate history. Let me ask you a quick question. Since you came from, like you said, an Okinawan stand-up, striking background, what was the biggest challenge that you had with transitioning to a ground-based art or a grappling-based art such as jiu-jitsu?
It's difficult because you feel like a fish out of water.
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer able to really utilize any of the striking, even stances. I will be honest with you that the stances that I was able to really have good during my time competing in sport karate, they did help me a lot in my balance. To have a good base and posture is really important in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it served for a certain period of time that it was like I'm a rock and you can't move me.
Mm-hmm.
In many positions, guys would make fun, be like, man, I put this guy in my X guard and I stretch him out and he's doing the splits. No one else is supposed to be able to, they're trying to tip me to the right or to the left. And they're like, we can't do anything with the guy because he just stretches out. And it was cool for a while. And as I started to increase my knowledge of jiu-jitsu, I no longer wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be like, well, you can't even get me in that position anymore. So I don't have to rely on my base, my flexibility. Mm-hmm. I'm now able to just like, as soon as they attempt to try to put me in that position, I'm already flying right by them into some pretty cool transitions and taking to the dominant positions. So how the martial arts, I think one of the things I was thinking about on my way down here from my house, I live about 20 minutes from the academy, is, everybody, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and there's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school probably in everybody's town.
Mm-hmm.
but the crossover from being a striking practitioner to a jiu-jitsu practitioner at times is kind of hard because a few different reasons, right? If you have a karate school in your hometown and there's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu school in your hometown, it's a little tough because that's your competitor.
Correct.
So to want to go over there and learn and also, it's probably you're gonna get choked out every time that you go in there. It's a tough thing for somebody to do. I understand that, and probably, to be honest with you, had I not, had I had my own school, it would have been something that would have been really tough for me to get involved with. But because I moved to Texas in 2005, I got involved with Ohana just as a student. I didn't even tell Jason. He tells people now, he's like, that's my professor. He says, Gabe didn't even tell me about his background.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even tell me about the fact that he was this karate dude and had all these awards and met all these people. And he's like, he didn't tell me that till a year into his training because I didn't want to have that preconceived. How often do you hear guys come into the academy and say, well, yeah, I used to be such and such back in the day.
I've done this and blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows that story.
So I was just like, I wanted to be a student. And I guess my point to this is that it is a tough thing. I'm very happy that I found this art, and I didn't initially dive all the way into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu again because comfort zone.
Right.
I felt most comfortably striking, so I really invested all my time into that place where I felt really comfortable. And now that time has passed, the cage time has passed, and I'm able to get involved again. That's what I think I'm really excited about, is that there is competition for guys that are myself. I'll be 46 on Tuesday.
Hey, join us 46ers. Come on down.
And I'm able to compete at a pretty good level. The competition that I went to last year, the largest one of the year for us, is in Vegas. It's called the Master World. It's everybody who's above 30 goes to compete there. It's growing so quickly, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. The first year I went was 2015. We probably had about 2,000 to 3,000 competitors. Last year we had 4,500 competitors.
Oh my goodness.
I had 40 guys in my division. Right now we have 13 signed up in my division, but probably by the time it's closed out, I'm hoping to have 30, 40 competitors, have 5, 6 matches, and I dig it. I've been competing my whole life. Mm-hmm. So this is my new challenge.
This is the new challenge. I like that. Let me ask you as we start to wrap this up, if it were somewhere, and obviously we're on a channel which does serve a lot more to sport martial arts, whether it's your Korean background, Japanese background, etc. And in the tournament scene, if someone wanted to kind of follow the path like you did, and they were saying, I'd love to pick up Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or Jiu-Jitsu period, what advice would you give to them for looking for a school or even joining a school? I think the first one is put ego behind. You may have a black belt in Taekwondo, karate, etc., but you got to empty your plate and go in. But what other advice would you give?
Be patient. The part that makes it tough is that you have to simplify the art sometimes, because then I do this for people who are looking to compete. Mm-hmm. They often don't compete as a beginner because they're like, whoa, I'm not ready. I don't know how to defend a triangle. Mm-hmm. Or if they put me in this choke, I don't know how to defend this. I'm not ready. Mm-hmm. What I've really attempted to try to do with students right now is I teach once a week. That's all I do for my teaching, is I tell people when they're looking to compete, focus on one takedown, one sweep, to be able to, if I end up on the bottom, I need to be able to sweep you back over and come up on top. Mm-hmm. Base and posture. If I have bad base and you're able to control my base, now I'm going to be in trouble. Now I'm about to get armbarred, triangled, choked. I have to have a good base and posture. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, one submission from the top. So that way when I am on top, I have the option to finish you. So kind of keeping it simple. I love the term KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
That's, if I remember, that's a military term. I've heard that before.
Yeah, so I try to keep that that term when I'm talking to people about jiu-jitsu. It is the layers. That's what I love about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. is the layers are so deep. I'm going to spend the next 20 years still trying to just master certain positions.
Mm-hmm.
And once I master the half guard, I'm still not mastered. There's still more
There's still more.
variations and more variations. It's pretty incredible.
As we say for almost any martial art, it's a lifetime journey for mastery. And really, there's a question like, can you truly master it? Because there's always new innovative things that come out. One last final thought before we close. Since you've seen both sides of the mat, you see the groundwork and you've also seen the striking. I know you're a huge MMA and UFC fan. Who do you go out of your way to watch compete? If this person, male or female, is on the card, you're like, you know what, I gotta make sure this is the person I want to watch. Who is that for you in the UFC?
Well, I have to be biased and cheer for my own first UFC fighter from Ohana Academy, Alex Hernandez.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he recently got picked up to the UFC back in March, and man, I'm dying right now because I'm trying to recall the Dinesh
Yes.
was his opponent.
Yes.
He knocked him out.
That was recently, wasn't that a knee strike?
It was a overhand.
Overhand. Okay, I remember hearing that. Nice. You take a little credit for that overhand, right?
No, Alex is I remember him coming into our academy and saying, "I'm going to be the best opponent. I'm going to be the number one fighter here at Ohana." And I remember saying, "Yeah, right. This kid, 17 years old at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, right." But amazing, the kid's work ethic. But besides Alex Hernandez, I would say Dillashaw. I'm a big Dillashaw fan because I like the way that he mixes everything up.
Mm-hmm. DJ Dillashaw, looking forward to that rematch with him and Cody. I wonder if it'll start to get bad blood again like it did before.
It'll
the closer
definitely
these guys get to fighting. Well, Gabe, I know you get ready to train, so I certainly appreciate your time. Guys, be sure if again, this is a staple in sports karate history, now taking a new transition and a new journey in jiu-jitsu. I hope we're all so fortunate to do so. Gabe, thank you for your time. And I hope to see you very soon. It's been a long time since I've seen you, but we got to get together soon.
I look forward to it. I'll catch up with you soon. Keep an eye on this girl, Cody Molina.
Cody Molina?
I've been working with her now for just a little bit here in San Antonio. She lives here. She's on the NASCA circuit, and she'll be out there competing with my form here soon.
We will definitely keep an eye out for that. Gabe, thank you very much, and we will see you guys very soon.